Good morning, our dear guests of our conference. People are still talking, but please, dear audience, please move forward and take your seats because we are going to start. Good morning once again, and I am pleased to open the annual conference of Estonian social science. People at the times of technological breakthroughs. And I would briefly like to introduce our day today because I think the air is full of buzz already. At first, we have some opening words, and then we will start with our first introductory panel discussion. But the focus of our today, after this panel discussion in the morning and different presentation sessions, and we will finish our conference in the afternoon in another panel where we are going to sum up the topics covered today. But some bits of information. First of all, we have a very special today because in addition to this annual conference, today we're also electing our rector. Somewhere there is a chimney ready and everybody's looking at it, trying to note what color the smoke is. Both candidates are here. One has more opportunities to talk, the other one has less. But if there are people who do not know yet which candidate to prefer, then they can make up their minds today. And I would also like to add that we have Marju Lauristin here today, and a documentary film is being made. There are filmmakers here, and if you don't want to show your face in this documentary, then you need to indicate that to the filmmakers, and they will cut your faces off then eventually. I can see the author of the film is here, and he confirms that this is the case. And one more thing, we also have interpretation, so you can listen to the conference in English. There are headsets at the back and also a person who distributes but perhaps everybody is already equipped with necessary headsets. But now I would like to give the floor for the opening words the rector of Tallinn Technical University, Tiit Land, who is also running up for the next period as a rector. Thank you. I would like to make a short summary of my election platform. This is my last opportunity, honorable participants of the conference, dear colleagues and friends. I have this enormous pleasure to greet you today on behalf of Tallinn Technical University in our interdisciplinary conference that focuses on human, social sciences, and developing social changes in. As a rector of this university, I have seen every day how technology and science, these are not only means and tools, but also power that transforms our society, our work life, our cities, and our daily experiences. Over the past 10 years, those technological breakthroughs, data, AI, powerful automation have brought along enormous changes. At the same time, we are also facing global challenges which are connected with climate change, diversification of our natural environment, and new social tensions. In this pivotal situation, we need more than ever before cooperation in engineering, sciences, social sciences, um, humanitarian sciences and natural sciences, a dialogue between all these fields or trialogue. Technology does not operate in a vacuum. It causes social consequences, and we need also technological answers that are ethical, sustainable, and humane. The focus today, these big questions are the focus of today. What does it mean to be a human being in an area of technological breakthroughs and societal crisis, how they affect our economy, and how can we as scientists and universities offer new knowledge to the society, new solutions that develop us further. Tallinn Technical University is devoted to such interdisciplinary knowledge and seeking solutions. This is our single university in Estonia focusing on technology, and we want to be of use to the society. And recently, our main priority has been on developing clean technologies. But what is clean technology on the 21st century? Resource saving with as little footprint or handprint as possible. I would like to give you some examples. For example, Professor Tanel Alumäe, language recognition, speech recognition tool, also innovation center that enables to save up to 20% of electricity, 30% of materials that is actually used in wiring. Also introducing new solutions, technical solutions to our population. Also, we have created top centers, energetics, maritime sciences, circular economy, AI, and other topics are covered. And I dare say that today's an engineer is responsible for the society more than ever. We have discussed and developed many curricula. We have introduced new topics into our courses. We have devised new courses, lifelong learning courses, socially sensitive areas also in Ida-Virumaa, East-Virumaa. Dear audience, I'm pleased to host you here today in the university, and I hope that you have seen something interesting that our scientists are working on in our laboratories. I hope you a good conference and open discussions. Thank you. So, and President of Estonian Social Sciences, Maia Preimann, please. Honorable Rector, colleagues, dear guests, please. on to our first panel discussion. But let's do it like this. First of all, you all panelists can present their thesis, their principles. They can find their seats, and then afterwards we will start with our discussion. We have interactive conference, and this means that you can also intervene with your own questions. And for this, we have this Slido environment. If you take a picture of this QR code with your mobile phone, you will see those options, how to present and submit your own comments, questions. And I will see these from my device. And if your questions are good enough, then we can use them during our discussion. But the title of this first panel is Man in the Throes of Social Upheaval, and a couple of words to introduce the panel. We are living in an area where societies are going through a steep curve, technological, cultural, and societal changes, and geopolitical changes. They are changing the way we live and work. And the main focus is there, and we are going to start debating about the curve, where we are we going to see round the curve or not? There will be Laur Ganger from Tartu University. A couple of words to introduce Laur Ganger. He is one of the main authors of Big Transfers, Society, Energy, Mobility, Food, and other socio-technical systems, long-term developing. At the same time, we have also Marju Lauristin from Tartu University Social Sciences Institute, Professor Emeritus, and her contribution to sociology is enormous, can be measured with decades. Her contribution to our lives is cannot be underestimated. And that explains why they are here. And also finally, Mr. Tarmo Soomere, who is the professor of coastal maritime research. And maybe you remember him also as the president of Estonian Academy of Sciences. You are all welcome here to discuss, but we'll start so that you will get the floor one by one. I'll give the first opportunity to Lauri Ganger, then to Marju Lauristin, and then to Tarmo Soomere. Lauri, please. I have to apologize in public. I was given only 7 minutes, which means that I can only talk about the last 250 years. If you want to know more, then ask later. But I'm going to talk about my activities in recent years, technical modernism. Definitions first. My focus is on a bunch of beliefs, modes of behavior, practices that concern the environment, science, and research and technology. And they are so widespread that you can find them in whatever in society. If you think about such attitudes, human being is separate from the environment, he is superior to the environment, to nature. So we are going through a continuous process and development. Natural resources are readily available. They are sufficient. They will never run out. If you believe in this, then good luck. You are a child of technological modernism. But we have a slight concern with all this, because when we talk about the last 250 years, this actually boils down to two major topics. The environment becomes a blind spot, and that's why we have kind of a big crisis, ecological crisis. And secondly, we have been enormously self-confident that we can solve whatever problems we are going to face. And therefore, we are making the same mistakes over and over again. Why I like history is because we can find all kinds of predictions there that have proven to be totally wrong. Well, we should have connected our cities. Beginning of the 20th century, the scientists or journalists in USA talked about mass production, and this enables to use resources more efficiently. And most of you remember the rhetorics in the 1990s, where information technology would enable direct democracy and all that. By the 1960s, it was clear that at least half of these predictions cannot be ignored, meaning that environmental problems and globalization or the transfer, ecological modernization took place, which means environmental problems are serious, but science and technology can find solutions to all kinds of problems, and this crisis will be overcome. Do not worry, relax. Engineers and businessmen will do everything for you. But the problem is that half of the math has not functioned properly. The solutions that in their time were really good, they enhanced technological development and increased welfare in our societies, but they are not suitable today to solve the crisis, because if we simplify it, then our biggest concern is that the people born in the 20th century are trying to solve problems in the 21st century, but based on the ideas from the 19th century. And then we are surprised, why does it not work? I'll give you some examples. We have three really different solutions, apparently. Bioengineering will put big mirrors in our atmosphere, then 100% renewable in energy also. And then you start to read and listen to the people, their presentations, and you think that their principles are pretty much the same, because whatever the social problem is, you can solve it with the help of technology. We'll act first and we regulate afterwards. If there are some negative trends, we can actually preempt them. But old technologies that have caused problems, we can solve them with new, more complex technologies. And no surprise that these viewpoints have received a lot of criticism. Okay, geoengineering, we can make it work, but we'll continue with our CO2 extensive technologies. And now we are having a shock. We can no longer can apply geoengineering, but our problems are twice as big as they used to be, and we are twice as much dependent on resources. Jan Darlin has said that AI maybe should start to produce paper clips, well, as a joke, but it is too late to turn the development back. Very enthusiastic calculations, 100% renewable energy. Actually, they disregard this backlash, because historically, when energy production becomes more efficient, this means also more demand. Unless we take this into account, the likelihood is that we end up in a situation that renewable energy footprint continues to grow. I cannot tell you what to do except for some very general principles. In other words, social sciences and scientists have talked a lot about reflexive modernism. We need to reflect ourselves. And this makes me nervous, because we have been reflecting ourselves for 50 years. We know pretty well that we have climate change, loss of biodiversity. We have developed in our society also certain very nuanced ways how to ignore this knowledge. Instead of being reflective all the time, maybe we should take a more responsible approach towards modernization. And another problem is, are we able to learn something from history? I don't know, but the idea could be that if we have been characterized by, let's say, certain optimism, then we, after 250 years, we should be able to learn from what did not go well and to adopt some sort of protective mechanisms. Meaning that I do not want to kill your holy cow, but teacher Laur was right. You cannot satisfy with half of the calculation. You have to do the whole math. You have to admit there is a blind spot as well. Thank you very much. I am very glad to take the floor after Laur because he is one of our former students. He has received all his degrees in England, but has returned and he's a professor. He talked about the things that I have also been thinking about, not about so much about the world, but Estonia in particular, because we have dealt a lot with the analysis of transfer, although this time period is small, only 250 years, in Estonia even smaller, but we still believe that the ocean is reflected in one drop of water. And therefore, I prepared a couple of slides and with some references to our ideas. This general model that we devised as a result of our project, where we try to compile everything that we have been studying over the past 20 years together with Anu, and Triinu, Veronica, and many others. We finally put together a model, and this is kind of a critical realism model. Not to talk so much about the constructions, we paid a lot of attention to constructions at first, but to pay attention more on events and their effects, to see how they combine and how they create new constructions, different constructions. There are two sides. Margaret Dutch is the author of this model, and they have been working on it for decades. Behind this model, these are effects of the outer environment. And what is inside the model itself is a cyclical one. There will be a big change, be it a technological change, geopolitical shock, or something else that puts processes into motion. And as a result, there will be some new institutions, new laws. And on the left, there is this objective social interaction, and people react with their opinions. Journalists discuss, social scientists discuss, painters paint. They create a meaning, and through this, certain agencies are empowered. Somebody gets stronger, somebody's cast aside, there will be new participants, and this initial thrust ends when a certain new agency, new complex has developed. And this completes the entire cycle. The final cycle is that does not lead to anywhere else. There will be some flashbacks or some, so we can't do things the way we did 10 years ago. They were self-evident, but they no longer are self-evident. So the main thesis or the main focus of the curve also, that the bigger cycle and also those smaller cycles have now reached their final stagnant phase. there have been new thrusts. We are in the beginning of this new cycle, but we don't know yet how this will really start, because we don't know what is going to change and how long is the period that we are allocated. And you all know about this. Mai started at first that her personal time has speeded up so much that those past 6 years have passed as a second. So, well, I think this applies to all of us. So time is relative, but still, this technology objectively creates speeding because the car moves faster than a bicycle, a computer calculates faster than we can do it manually. Correlations on paper, for example, by hand, and also all kinds of different changes bring along more changes. We have investigated their effects. They are not always positive, as we know. And we now have new problems that are connected with different aspects. This general aspect that inequality is growing everywhere. So wherever we look, there is more inequality. Why? Is it some sort of universal law or the laws of physics? But we also wanted to have everything stable. Well, I say we in an abstracted way. Well, our politicians said, well, we want to be a boring Nordic society. Everything is stable, everything is in order. But, well, we can see we are very far from stability, from inside, from outside. Inequality is increasing, and also anxiety is increasing. And all this process is taking place alongside with the changes of generations. People are born, people grow, people develop, they obtain different values, different beliefs. The changes of generations is the most important place where values change. New generations take over. We older people just watch and see, and new people continue. Well, we think that they will continue what we did, but no. Those who are 15 years old, they think, well, those who are 30 years old, that these are old people. They're really, really old. So the cycles have speeded up. I know that my second year students, and they say that my younger brothers and sisters who are in year 9 in school, that they are not able to talk to their younger siblings, students. We could talk about social media at great lengths, but there's cultural bubbles and cultural wars. Instead of this democratic dialogue with the help of the internet, we have seen how people close up in their bubbles. Everybody wants to be the only one, the single person who is absolutely right. Why this has happened, but this is absolutely contrary to what we expected. Also, we can see that this big curve, why do I think that this is really big? Because the things that have been taken as face value, self-evident, looking at Tarmo Soomere, the president of former president of the Academy of Sciences. Okay, they are casting a light onto the society, and we follow the light, and we become a clever nation. Okay, we are performing exceptionally well, but now suddenly we are in a situation where we are told that it is not important. We need to adopt a completely different approach. Well, I mean, in general, we need to change. This is the biggest change. This cogito ergo sum, which was the core sentence, suddenly this has become kind of a debatable value. And this has also led us to extremes with AI, because AI can reach the levels of humans in this dimension, cogito ergo sum, but not in this dimension, esset veri. I feel, I suffer, I love, I don't know, I don't understand. And because of that, we have this big curve in our basic principles and understandings between the relationship between humans and technology. I'm not going to talk about things we know well, but what we don't know. If you can see that from the East, we will get a competitor, a partner, China. And then we talk about China as an only kind of a communist country, ignoring all the developments that have taken place there over the past 50 years. And we are not going to teach our children Chinese because this is the language of spies and bad guys. But people who speak Chinese, they do better in whatever tests, PISA or whatever. We have lived in a hope that there will never be a war, but now we have to admit that we are anxious because we are on the brink of a new world war. How has this become possible? How to manage it? And certainly, when we take it from our perspective, our tiny Estonia, I like this comparison. We are like a yacht that wants to sail across the world. We know, we have seen it on TV, that those who undertake this trip, they want to make sure that the boat is proper. They train for years. They rehearse teamwork before they sail out on the seas. And if we feel in our small boat that we are starting our voyage on the seas, but there will be a storm, my question is, are we ready for this voyage? And if we hope, as Lau said, that we are helped by AI, we don't need to put any effort. We are doing exactly the same as we did before. We have our Skype. We are going to develop our own AI, which is equal to our average Estonian person. And this will overcome with all kinds of global problems. Oops, everything. Well, this hope sounds great, but I'm afraid that this hope is not realistic because, as was mentioned earlier, because we need to understand what AI can do while in our hands that helps us, or what it can do that we don't know, or that is counterproductive to us and may sink our boat. So therefore, the questions are open, and this is something that we need to discuss. But what is certain? This 30-year analysis and what has happened in Europe. This year we have 500 years of Estonian books, started with the invention of printing, Gutenberg. Oh, well, what was not a big deal. They had some plates, they sold the paper on marketplaces, but the result was a complete change in societies, revolutions, secularization. Everything started from this small printing machine. And we don't know what is starting now. We don't even know what the name is. Well, artificial intelligence in general. So in any case, there will be big changes, but we don't know what they will be. There will be systematic changes. All previous political institutions, economic regulations, all these institutional structures, these have developed based on this book culture, printing culture, where knowledge, research knew everything. And this has led us forward optimistically. And now suddenly we are in a situation where we sense that the situation, the structure, this is the only one that we have at the moment. But if we take a look at politics, this is obvious that it doesn't work. The system does not ensure that clever people take decisions. And this is how we can also view other things. We should be cleverer as social scientists. When we started with all this song festival, when we started to change economy and societies in Eastern Europe, sociologists, social scientists were not called to join to start with. Psychologists were ignored because, well, they are just talking about silly things. And there was a big problem. Okay, the society is divided into two, that there are two Estonians, part of it is in favor, part against. And then social scientists were called on board. And we are facing changes. We need to understand the social systematic impacts, particularly when we do it together with other scientists and researchers. And this is, again, our mission. This is a mission. This is not cogita. This is that we don't understand. So let's accept this mission. There's nothing we can do about it. Dear rector, candidates, opponents, honorable social scientists, colleagues, my words reflect a tiny bit of my election platform. If we read Yuval Harari, then he has very elegant, enchanting pieces of writing that which say that technological breakthroughs have two aspects: a disaster for humans and catastrophe for the nature. We need not to be so pessimistic because people are very different. Doris Karava also offers us a solution. We want to have kind of a common feeling, poetic. The spectrum is very broad, but it is true that fast development has been possible because of the availability of natural resources, or to be precise, their exploitation. And therefore, humankind has taken up more space, be it fauna or flora, culture, plants, cattle. They ensure well-being for us. The idea of Harari has also been different, that all technological breakthroughs have increased the number of those whose welfare is questionable, whose comfort is non-existing. True. If we talked about 250 years, 1,000 years, changes take place, have taken place for the past 20,000 years, where people started to farm and they were no longer hunter-gatherers. I have a certain linear differential formula. Maybe this is scary, but the idea is that the formulas that describe the world, they have two types of solutions: exponential or exponential growth in progression, periodical economic change, but also exponential decline. These also reflect a very simple social economic changes. And then we have some jolts, which means that the dynamics of a certain period is essentially different. This jolt cannot last for a long period of time. It has its fundamental reasons, because systems tend to move into a new regime, but continue fundamentally based on the old three principles, but using different parameters. And the parameters define which of these three solutions materialize. It's slipping into a paradigm of societies, and we are going to live substantially different. But we are so much in debt. Never ever before have we been so much in debt. What is different? No. Actually, we need to ask, where are we? Mostly, we are we in a phase of changes? We cannot answer because we are in this phase ourselves. This answer comes when we can talk about it retrospectively. But there are certain indicators that that hint that we are about to have on a bit of an abyss. We know that before, in the past, those big climate changes were a couple of things that took place. The local variability of climate has decreased because we have measured for a longer period of time good weather and bad weather. And this amplification, this when we sense that we have experienced really hot weather and also poor weather, this is extremely poor weather. So good and bad weather have been increasingly different from each other. But these two principles have worked historically. But maybe we could identify something in the society with those quantifiable parameters. I'm not entirely sure, but I'm still hopeful. But maybe we could see in a small mirror of the society how how quickly knowledge is added in our society. There are two reasons why: fact-based knowledge, emotion-based knowledge. Fact-based, this is easy because thanks to the fast increase of knowledge, explosive development of all kinds of technologies, we are living in a world where the volume of knowledge is doubled every 9 years, and generations are very small. I think that there is a whole generation between children in basic school and in gymnasiums. So the difference is also reflected in, let's say, manual skills, cognitive skills, but the speed of learning new things has not changed. People are differentiated not in terms of the volume of the knowledge, but in terms of their knowledge in different areas. Another approach is emotion-based, but also, to add some facts, Winston Churchill said, we develop our tools and then tools start to develop us. And that is applicable to our tools that develop also our science and research. They tailor our science. Emilia Grant, do not choose a person whose TV set is bigger than his bookshelf. So how to disseminate knowledge, how to store knowledge? Because one tiny problem there. This is an Arabian proverb. Differently from the head, the stomach indicates when it's empty. We have a fundamental difference. Mikever has pointed out that intelligence is the ability of a human being to take up less space. Thank you. Thank you very much for these theses, and we are using the rest of the time to discuss. I'm trying to pick out some ideas. This curve notion, I think we understood it pretty well. We don't have to repeat that, what the curve is. We can start straight away. I would like to start with this technology and the ambiguity, the ambivalence of technologies that Lord Goldberg mentioned. Because we talk a lot about technology, and we hope that we can sort out all of our problems with the help of it. But maybe this is an illusion or a certain, illusion or misinterpretation. But people need certain fundamental redefinition. Definition. When we talk constantly about technology, AI, day in, day out, and this probably indicates that we contribute a lot onto technological changes. How can we understand this ambivalence of technologies? To what extent should we trust technology, rely on technology? Or if there are some limitations, what are those other resources that enable us to come through this big curve? I would like to start. For the past 3-4 months, I have been answering this question, and I've given some thought about this because I am active in the field of education. How could we change education so that a person is ready? That's the main thing. A human being know how technology affects not only him, but the society. This understanding technology is neutral. This is true only to an extent. But on the other hand, we know that having studied communication, media, and all that, ChatGPT is also media technology. In its essence, it is changing the relationship between time and space. It affects our brain activity. It relates to our psychology. The technology itself affects human beings and human relationships. Take for example, social media. Nobody programmed social media in order to create a situation that we can launch cultural wars and all that. A medium as such per se enabled this and enabled it more easily to act. Mass media, the old form mass media where we are, it is different in essence. It doesn't create bubbles, but invites people to get out of bubbles and transfers a message. The differences from media is not because you are a better person or somebody's not so good. Social media is also creating bubbles and is a victim of all those processes. And artificial intelligence, what does it amplify as a medium? What does it enable? What does it speed up in a way, as Jan Dalling emphasizes? It enhances things so that human psychology's mind is not able to move along at this speed because all mediums or media enhance things, speed them up, change spatial relationships. And this is something we need to be aware about. Not only that this verbal side of things, this linguistic side of things, but more seriously, technologically, much bigger change is that this algorithm in this artificial intelligence is modified. We don't know whether it was AI that caused this blackout in Spain. When we dealt with data protection, we could not say anything about as concerns M2M, so machine to machine or technology to technology. We cannot regulate this machine to machine communication. I'd like to give a broader picture. AI is not so interesting. We are dealing with sustainability, mobility, energy, and all that. But it's very easy and simple to be critical of technology. We need to be able to sort things out. What is important, what is less important, what we need to redefine. 10 billion people, they need to survive in 2050. So without modern technology, this will not be a possibility. This can be one of the big achievements of modernism. But the question is, traditionally, we have had big differences in roles, but how the roles are applied. Let's say a nuclear bomb that's created a shift in our mentality, but technologies, the influence of which is much faster, unpredictable, and probably also negative. Over the past decades, this responsible research and technology has gained importance because we need to know about the field that we are developing. And this developer, the scientist, also needs to be able to forecast, to predict what the technologies he is developing are going to be used for. So responsible research, nobody is treating you better from optimism when you have a conversation with politicians. So theory and practice actually go counter to each other. Now, Danosoveri, you may become director of the University of Technology. Maybe you have a kind of a ripe thought about that. No, I'm not moving along with this. But I have some comments because we are overly concerned. This is what we always are worried about things, and we worry about a rocking chair. Doesn't take us anywhere. Laud has chosen a very good path. Marta and Maria was someone who listened and memorized. And this is an illusion that we are able to direct society developments sustainably. Well, coming back to the formula that deal with our universe, this sustainability is very unlikely in the world of linear growth and linear decline, or between big fluctuations. The dream that we could change or affect the parameters or set them so that we can take this sustainable path. Social decline is the slowest of all kinds of declines. A critical note here, when I listen to those big notions, sustainable decline, and when we take a global view, why are we so concerned? That's the difference. AI is not concerned, it's not worried. We are worried. Well, we understand that sustainable decline means that a small nation like we are kind of an appendix, not necessary. This is what AI would say, or in the nature, or our own close environment, that a certain decision is taken, something is calculated, this is sustainable decline. So this being worried constantly about things, we're not worried about technology, we're worried about ourselves. I would like to clarify the idea of a human being. This cogito ergo sum, this classical definition. A human being is someone who thinks. And through this, we understand and define the notion of being a human. And classically, we think that a human being is alone in this universe, able to think. But with this new technology and artificial intelligence actually does the thinking better at some point than a human being, even though it's not the same as a human being, but basically it's capable, it succeeds humans, exceeds them. They have existential feelings, pain, suffering, love, but the machine doesn't have these feelings. So should we review the definition of a human being and maybe take a new existential perspective? Well, I think if we had Jan Aru here, he's a researcher who works, compares human minds and artificial intelligence. All these slogans that AI will exceed humans soon, Okay, this has come out of ignorance because we are ignorant about how humans work. A human being has two sides, the left side, the right side. One is rational, um, responsible for rational activities, and the other one is responsible for emotional, very concrete side of things. And the human brain puts these sides together, but artificial intelligence does not put these two together automatically, only when a human being asks it to put these two sides together. Was it 2050 conference? Tarmo Kasela and several others have said that this is not the case, that AI is equal to human being. Maybe sometimes we don't know, but sometimes in the future maybe it will happen. Okay, the definition of a human people is very complex and grows with us, but maybe we should not compare us with AI, because why are we saying that we invented the wheel, the car, and plane, something that enables us to move faster and quicker and better? There we ask, is AI equal to us? Let's do not adopt this attitude. Oh, you don't respect us. Well, that's the Russian mentality. Forget about this. Let's think about things that are beyond time. The being a human is a different thing. We have a life to live properly. And Pope Franciscus said that we have started to understand that not the knowledge make us holy, but the way we live can make us holy. It's big transfers or transitions. Are you concerned about your soul? I'm trying to avoid philosophy because this will take us deeper into a hole, a mud. I had a fun discussion with a Google chatbot and convinced that strawberry has 3 R's, strawberry. AI is coming since the 1960s. However, this cultural tension, or pass it to Mario, this modernism also is characteristic of this internal conflict. Our self image, we are better than the nature. And on the other side, this Darwinist evolution, this total cracking of the picture. A human being is not different from the rest of the nature. There are very many similarities with animals and with ecologically, we are very tied up with the rest of the um, nature, which is different from what was believed in the 19th century. But the other aspect, the other side is we have another conflict. How much do we differentiate the nature around us? So we are between two chairs, sort of. Well, it seems to me that there is a big important point here. If we start to compare the world where artificial intelligence start to determine instead of a human being. So how is the world different from the world that has been created not without the help of AI, that human being is similar to rhinoceroses, elephants, algae, all that. So what kind of knowledge has been stored in us through evolution that we can exploit in ways we don't realize yet? We can hand it over to AI. And this is not what people think who develop AI. If you put it like this, is it possible to describe this knowledge that we have stored in the course of evolution? No, I cannot draw a picture or sketch it about that. We have different research methods to describe it. But from the point of view of science research and this new curve that we are heading towards, or we are talking in an abstract way about interdisciplinary approaches. And I know that in reality, we do not function well with this, but we are facing a new synthesis between knowledge, research, technology. I dare say that the entire science starts with polarization, with big changes, anthropolization. Not that we take the human being away from nature, but that this natural development of human being, we come back to civilizations, things that have happened 20,000 years ago, not with climate, but also with human civilizations. 7,000 years ago, interesting things took place in civilizations. Complex systems have been analyzed, the books have been published, and we need to be more aware of this. And this, the Bible also attempted to describe all this, the Old Testament. And this is very powerful. We start from the Old Testament, the Bible, but again, it's transfer, cultural, multi-layered transfers. But this curve, can we put it into some kind of historical perspective? Is it a bigger curve than the French Revolution or the fall of the Roman Empire? Is it something bigger, or can we compare it with this? If we want to measure it in kilometers, in years, or the amount of people, this is not a mathematical thing, but essentially it encompasses the whole mankind. How much time it will take, the cycles. If we take the cycle with the printing press, this is the second cycle according to this model. So what led to the invention of printing, and what happened after the following 500 years, and what has happened with the launch of new media. So we have seen that these processes are very long, and we can assume that what is starting now cannot be shorter. These social breakthroughs, I remembered Yuri Lotmas's cultural splash, or is man able to digest all these changes? Is there some sort of stable ground also? We are talking about the curve, all kinds of changes, but can we also point out something that remains the same, is stable, this tectonics, these other certain layers that we can found ourselves? Okay. Indeed, I mentioned that every 9 years, the number of facts is doubled. And the number of facts that are published in scientific literature. But this huge mass, and on this backdrop, the achievements that change our lives, those scientific breakthroughs or patterns, they have remained the same for the past 70, 80 years. So the creativity of humankind has not changed much. There's been an observation that in Western German schools, that no matter what the level of the school was, the difference between the best and the weakest students was and remained more or less constant. And it was concluded that if we try to boost the weaker ones, nothing much changes, but this difference still remains the same. This is very interesting mathematics, and these values can be the measuring post, but the measuring pattern seems to be universal. Okay, those transformation models, what do they say? I have a numerical answer. In Austria, there is a work group. They try to measure the consumption of energy and materials in the society. One of their main conclusions is that this biggest shift happened when hunter-gatherers became locals or stayed in one place. So we have not reached this sustainable use of materials and resources. So we have kind of half of the shift. Okay, we need to adopt a longer perspective, really. Okay, the shift has not started yet. We don't even know the complex of parameters that we need. You keep talking about decline or diminishing. I have never thought about that. No, stationary solution, that this is a historic fallacy that cannot last long. In sociology, social science, we can have to return to big theories that have been cast into the trash bin of history. And we need to find a bigger theory. It seems to me, and I'm very interested also, that it would encompass this phenomenon that we call civilization. What is culture? What is technology? How they change self-reflection, self-image of a human being. And I think here we have several aspects to discover. And technological sciences and whatnot, I have a certain strange, non-scientific, intuitive sense that when we invent, or somebody somewhere invents the information stability laws, or so information is something that is something mental, something volatile. But before we study genes and our brains, and we take a look at all the cultural processes, we also can say some constant figures, fundamental law. There is a fundamental law that has not been discovered yet. This cannot be discovered by scientists in different fields, that this can be discovered jointly. I think there is no confirmation, but there are many indications that point us in this direction. Now, moving back to big theories, one question in social sciences, self-reflection. It seems to me that a lot of science devotes on, let's say, quantifiable things, but this big picture, to what extent is it in our education system? When I go to the library in Tartu, the books are really old. How can we create this base knowledge in those big categories? This is one of the silliest things that we have done here in Estonia. In the heat of all kinds of political changes, we thought that philosophy is a red science, and we have discarded it. This has made our education so much poorer. When we cannot think about our lives, our generation remembers there was this one philosophy that covered and explained everything. Oh, I do hope that we don't have to return to that. Or maybe there is one single physicist also. Maybe some physicists have been arrogant, and some other scientists have been arrogant. But to answer, the history of social sciences is something that we don't know about. We teach something that is called social sciences, or society education. So it's like the same that we teach chemistry using the tools from, I don't know, from the Middle Ages. And then we are surprised that people or young people want to study social sciences because they want to know things that they should have learned in gymnasiums, this empirical social sciences. When did it start? How did it develop? And all these issues that we're facing today, have we received answers? So a person that graduates from gymnasium should know these things, but they don't. Now, we have not had these shifts in our school curriculum. We need to think about the content of our education, not about where to build schools physically. So we want to know what we want to see in education, and where should a young person be at the age of 17, 18? I'm teaching second year students. It seems to me that there are many things that they should know from gymnasium, from secondary school. Therefore, I could then teach them more complex things, but I have to start from scratch sometimes. And that is not only my problem. I think the same is sensed by physicists. So our gymnasium education is repetitive. It repeats the main things from basic school. Well, we are maybe rusty in some ways. Laura, do you want to comment? In philosophy, you don't want to go there because this is means like digging a hole for yourself. But in this slide, do you want to add something? Okay, I'd like to tell you a story. With David Ball, we drank wine, and he asked, Lauri, if you want to research the history of personal computers in Soviet Baltic states, do you then need to discover or discuss a world that is irrespective of our minds? Okay, pointless. So the question is, when we gain something from philosophy or when we don't gain anything from philosophy. But these big theories in social sciences, okay, come to my lecture. I'm talking about this. Big theories do exist in universities. Actually, this university is in Tartu. The main idea is that the problems that social sciences face, this historical heritage, I think a very bad thing is to explain social events with social actors. As soon as technology creeps in or environment, they are discarded into, let's say, into the corner. So there is technological sociology and environmental social sciences. No, I think you need to provide theories combining technology, environment, social theories. This actually creates big challenges. I'm ashamed to say that Karl Marx, built his whole theory on this, that once technology changes, the whole society will change. And when we go back in history, Spencer and so on, we don't know, we don't teach, we don't study, we disrupt, we intervene, we calculate, we show percentages, but we never understand what these percentages actually mean. Who is Marx? Who is Weber? Who is Kant? Okay, are you covering this? In our institute, our own initiative, we are swimming back. Introduction to Social Sciences. It turned out to be very popular. People want to know. In BNS, our media house, we taught that. Now, just a more optimistic note, because with all kinds of changes, we may get frustrated, and everything that we took for granted is crumbling. And Estonia is in a position where we need to react always to changes that started somewhere else. Maybe I want to deal with different things, but then again, some cloud comes from elsewhere and I need to combat it. Can we initiate something? Can we start something? Can we show that that we are not only dealing with things that come from abroad and we are looking for umbrellas. Okay, well, let's look back 20, 30 years ago when our foreign colleagues came here and were very flattering. I was from a small institute of cybernetics. Yes, blockchain and bitcoins. And in our backyard, Skype was created. And Skype, there's no longer Skype. Okay. Those who have mother, they implement their own solutions. There's no surprise there. Estonia has been active in very hot topics, two hot topics, not around the table, but has been a pioneer. I'm very convinced, yes. We have been the leaders. When I have chatted with people abroad, that we are like a black mouse of Europe. We are trying, experimenting everything. Is it because we don't know? We are ignorant. We are unable to foresee all the changes. We are boldly moving forward. Or on the contrary, we are so much smaller and therefore we get feedback faster and we will find out what are the good, the bad effects of certain tests. Or maybe is it some sort of a specific intelligence that we are better in some ways, combining technology and nature. Or fourthly, maybe we are constantly afraid that we will not be seen unless we are the first. But the thoughts are still the same. Yeah. Now let's a practical thing. Yes, we can initiate things, but the problem is that we are in technological development, the fifth phase, the result is that industrial policy is that we need to do something very fast. And when it becomes popular, we sell it very quickly abroad. We are always very clever and a step ahead. But then again, how did those big industrial countries become rich? And also Sweden. This is because of sustainable technology. The question is, should we change our industrial policy in order to build capital intensive production? Do we really need to sell everything like skeleton, or should we encourage industries here? Because capital intensive industry is because you need to put in a lot of money, and if you are wrong, then you can lose a lot. But on the other hand, what you can achieve internationally, this is something that cannot be taken away from you because you have this hidden knowledge, and this is very difficult to copy or imitate. Maybe we should think more about this. Another aspect why Estonia is on the forefront, kind of funny saying that Finnish people don't talk to each other, but the Finnish people don't talk, but Estonian people do not talk to each other. Our work groups in science, they are very small, and this has been thought this is a tragedy. But maybe this is our competitive advantage, because in big work groups and researchers are there, they perform fantastically in their workplace, but they cannot survive if they are on their own. But new researchers that come from small work groups are very flexible, very clever, very competitive all over the country. And we have only predominantly small work groups. And this is a big competitive advantage. It's not about work groups. When we compare our universities with other countries and universities in other countries, we need to deal with more things. We need to teach different subjects, deal with bachelor's degrees, master's level. And this creates naturally patterns and syntheses that cannot be devised artificially. And I do believe that this is our competitive advantage. This smallness is an advantage. We have a couple of minutes, two questions. First one, very quickly. First of all, it's coming back to the human being. Lord Gonger mentioned this responsible human being, but at the same time, we keep talking about technological change and societal change. We are in bubbles, we are angry, we consume, we waste. And this is the dark side of our humankind. Do we have faith in human beings if we have the possibility to consume? But when can we become responsible? As this old thing that we become invisible or take up less space. What could be the change? You mentioned that we need to change technological systems. How should we change these systems? Okay, you always give me yes, no questions, so I answer no, it's not possible. Firstly, okay, let's talk about, do we need to curse or criticize other people? But this is what we do, because you have social media that provokes you, and you criticize constantly and blackmouth other people and demonstrate your worst sides. Are we in principle able to create different social media? Can we really create it? And could it become more popular than the existing social media? But the principle is same. If you want to achieve something sustainable, then you need to look at your daily routines. Unless if your routines support hostile behaviors, you can increase my awareness. But at the end of the day, I need to drive from Viimsi to the center and transport my children. But also, social media, you can earn money there. You want to sit there and use it as much as possible. If you were responsible, you would not use it that much. But this old capitalist model is still applicable. It still says that there are certain interests in play. Each theory, each model has been created to explain something, and it leaves something else unexplained. The most simple thing, Maslow pyramid. In reality, we are thinking about the first 2-3 levels, but when we take this entire educational system development, we don't have this drive to move to the top level, because we are fussing around on the 2-3 first levels. How is that possible? Social media, and we need to go back in time and think about this cyclical development. How we don't want to repeat the same mistakes with AI. We need to understand how we have developed until now. All right, we cannot fight this. This is politically maybe a glib statement from me. Half of us is comes from genes. The other one is well, it's a dilemma between nature and nurture. But coming back to artificial intelligence, once we have decided to have this big leap through AI, we also need to deal with natural ignorance, stupidity. People at the times when stupidity is deemed to be patriotic, it's very difficult to be clever. Theodor Fontane has said, that no, there is no knowledge to find stability. Okay, that's the conclusion. I don't want to conclude and say this. I can actually ask another thing. Mario, you mentioned Koidula, Lydia Koidula, our um, poet. Everybody wanted to achieve a lot in 19th century. And we talk about tiredness, this cultural vitality to move forward, to move on towards certain ideas. Is it there, or there's no momentum in the society? My question is, social scientists, what is your understanding? Where does this power come in the society to move somewhere, to achieve something? What do we need to do in order to create this instinct in people? Because we were very cleverly guided by Baltic aristocracy. They educated us and they also beat us up. And that created our sense and aspiration towards freedom. The same applies to Stalin. In order for us to become democratic as well, we needed to learn from the opposite. Okay, jokes aside, we need to sense this pressure, the danger. I said, so you cannot achieve anything without, let's say, fright, or let's say, being scared. So unless you're afraid, you cannot develop, you cannot move forward. Are we going to stick to this, or do you want to add one clever sentence? Certainly. We need to change our proverbs. We cannot say that who is cleverer will give up. A cleverer person cannot give up. Well, Theodore Roosevelt has said, do what you think is right in your heart, because you are going to be criticized for what you do, but not what you have not done. And Laul says, amen to this. Thank you very much.